Hi everyone, I'm Kotaro Umetsu from Kyushu Institute of Technology in Japan. Today, I'd like to talk an asynchronous P system using branch and bound for maximum independent set. First of all, I'd like to introduce membrane computing, which is a kind of natural computing, and our research theme. This slide shows background and definition of the membrane computing. Membrane computing is a computational model inspired by the structures and behaviors of living cells. For example, this figure shows a diagram of a cell. As shown in the figure, some membranes, such as nucleus or vacuole, are contained in the cell, and many objects, such as mitochondria or chloroplast, are contained in each membrane. In addition, each object moves or evolves to another object in parallel in each membrane. Then, using the concept, P-system has been proposed as a computational model based on the living cell. The P-system consists of membranes and objects. This figure shows a P-system, which is obtained as an abstraction of living cell on the left. In the P system, each membrane is labeled using distinct symbols and forms nested structures. In addition, each object is denoted as an alphabet and is contained in one of the membranes. Next, I'd like to explain another important feature of P system, the evolution rules. Each evolution rule is defined as a rewriting rule for membranes and objects. All objects and membranes are transformed in parallel according to applicable evolution rules. In membrane computing, several types of evolution rules are assumed. In our research, we assume these 5 basic rules. Now, I'll explain these rules in the following slides. The first rule is an object evolution rule that makes an object evolve into another object in a step, like this figure. The rule is based on the biological model of the evolution in a cell. The second rule is a sending communication rule that sends an object into the inner membrane, like this figure. The rule is based on the biological model of cell penetration. The third rule, send out communication rule, is also defined similarly, like this. The fourth rule is a dissolution rule that dissolves a membrane, like this figure. The rule is based on a biological model of work of a cell wall degrading enzyme. The final rule is a division rule that divides a membrane into two membranes, like this figure. The rule is based on the biological model of cell division. For the P system, a number of algorithms have been proposed for the computationally hard graph problems. For example, the above result is a P system for the maximum independent set, and the lower result is a P system for the minimum graph coloring. There are other results for computationally hard problems, which are Hamiltonian cycle, SAT, and max SAT. However, for the previous P system, there is a problem with the number of membranes. The computationally hard problems are solved using an exponential number of membranes in the previous results. But the number of membranes is limited in case of using real living cells. So we proposed a P system with reduction of the number of membranes. There is a result that the number of membranes is reduced by using branch and bound for the minimum graph coloring. This slide shows the numbers of membranes on existing P system and proposed P system. The number of membranes is at most 70% less than the number of membranes on the existing P system, but There is not P system for maximum independent set with branch and bound. Therefore, we propose an asynchronous P system using branch and bound for another problem, which is the maximum independent set. I'll now explain an outline of our proposed P system that solves the maximum independent set using branch and bound. First, I'll explain definition of the maximum independent set. The maximum independent set is a well-known computationally hard graph problem. Input is an undirected graph G and output is a subset of vertices such that no pair of vertices in the subset are adjacent. This figure shows an example of an input undirected graph, which consists of 4 vertices and 5 edges. In this case, the subset of vertices, which includes just V1 and V4, is the maximum independent set for the input graph. Next, I'll explain decision tree for the maximum independent set with an exhaustive search and the proposed branch and bound. This figure shows a decision tree with the exhaustive search, which is a technique used in the previous P system assigning for the maximum independent set. Each node denotes an assignment of each vertex. In addition, a path from a root to a leaf denotes an assignment for all vertices. For example, this path denotes an assignment such that V1 and V4 are in a subset, and V2 and V3 are not in the subset. In a standard decision tree, the number of leaves is equal to a power number of the input size, and in this case, the number of membranes is 2 to the 4th power, that is 16. Next, I'd like to explain branch and bound for maximum independent set. Branch and bound is a well-known computing paradigm for optimization problem. This method divides the num problem into subproblems and discards subproblems that cannot obtain optimal solutions. In our branch and bound for maximum independent set, I use the bounding condition. The bounding is executed in case that both of adjacent vertices are in the subset. This figure shows an idea of the branch and bound. In the figure, on the rightmost node, the bounding is executed because there is an edge from V1 to V2 and both of the vertices are in subset. Similarly, the bounding is executed at this node, this node, this node, and this node. Therefore, the number of membranes is reduced to 11 in this case. Now, I'd like to explain a procedure of our proposed P system with branch and bound. The input of the maximum independent set, which is an undirected graph G, is represented using a set of objects. In this P system, there is no set of objects for vertex, and OE is a set of objects for edges, given like this. For example, let's assume this graph is an input for our proposed P system. In this case, OE is given a set of 16 objects like this. These objects denote that whether each edge exists or not. For example, E14F denotes that V1 and V4 are not adjacent by an edge, and E24T denotes that V2 and V4 are adjacent by an edge. Next, I'll explain a procedure of the proposed P system. Initial membrane structure is given like this. There is an inner membrane included in an outer membrane. Input objects are given to the outer membrane, and This is outline of steps executed in the proposed P system. The procedure consists of these 6 steps. I'll explain an overview of these 6 steps in the following slides. In the first step, all input objects in the outer membrane are moved into the inner membrane. For example, the input graph is copied and moved from outer membrane to the inner membrane, and the inner membrane is divided two membranes. One membrane is used in step 2, and the outer membrane is used in step 4. The step 1 is mainly executed using these evolution rules. Next, in the second step, subsets of vertices are created by dividing the inner membrane with bounding. For example, in this case, first, this membrane is divided and V1 is assigned to be in a subset or not. Next, these membranes are divided in the same way. In this membrane, V1 and V2 are adjacent and in the subset, so the assignment of vertices is discarded. In the same way, V3 and V4 are assigned. Finally, only on the right membranes assignments are succeed as independent sets. The step 2 is mainly executed using these evolution rules. In the third step, the size of the maximum independent set is computed from all inner membrane and dissolve the inner membranes created in step 2. In the previous step, each vertex is assigned like this. In this case, there is an independent set with two vertices such as V1 and V4, but there is no independent set with 3 or more vertices. So the size of the maximum independent set is 2, and the object is created like this. Then the inner membranes created in step 2 are dissolved. The step is mainly executed using these evolution rules. In the fourth step, subsets of vertices are created by dividing the inner membrane with bounding, like step 2. Membranes not containing independent sets are discarded, and membranes containing the independent sets remain like this. The step 4 is mainly executed using these evolution rules. In the fifth step, all inner membranes except for the membrane containing the maximum independent set are deleted. In this case, these membranes are deleted and only this membrane remains because the membrane contains the assignment of the maximum independent set. The step 5 is mainly executed using these evolution rules. Finally, in step 6, the assignment of the maximum independent set is sent out from the outer membrane. In this case, the assignment V1 and V4 is the maximum assignment and are sent out like this. The step 6 is mainly executed using these evolution rules. Then, this sheet shows the complexity of the proposed P system for the maximum independent set with branch and bound. Asymptotic complexity is the same as the previous P system, so let me show the numbers of membranes compared using experimental simulation. We compared the numbers of membranes used in execution of an existing P system and our proposed P system for the maximum independent set. For example, an input is a graph with 12 vertices, and each edge is connected with probability 20, 40, 60, and 80%. For the graph, we theoretically calculated the number of membranes for existing P system, because the simulation for the existing P system didn't finish in the valid execution time for this case. So we executed only the proposed P system on our simulator. This is the result for the graph, and this bar shows the number of membranes on the existing P system, and this bar shows the number of membranes on the proposed P system. In this case, the number of membranes on the existing P system is more than 4,000 for 12 vertices graph. On the other hand, the number of membranes on the proposed P system is 3% of the number of membranes on the existing P system. Now, I'd like to conclude my talk. I introduced an asynchronous P system with branch and bound, which reduces the number of membranes by discarding partial assignment of vertices if both of neighboring vertices are in the subset. And we experimented with the proposed P system, and the experimental results showed that the proposed P system outputs valid results. For our future research, I'm considering asynchronous P systems using branch and bound or other optimization technique with a fewer number of natural materials, which are membranes and objects. That's all. Thank you very much.